So there is a distinction, the way that I talk about it, between hearing and listening. They're very different concepts. Hearing is acoustic access to the brain through the doorway, which means you have to have a good signal, you have to get through the environment, and we often need to use technology for all children. That's hearing. Hearing is making information available to the auditory neural centers. That's hearing. Listening is now attending to those acoustic events that are at the brain with intentionality. Listening is activating that prefrontal cortex for attention. Listening is activating that prefrontal cortex so that that brain is focused on the incoming acoustic stimuli. Hearing has to be made available before listening can occur. You have to know the hearing thing before the listening thing. And here's what I mean. I've often received calls from teachers saying something like, Johnny is not listening. He just doesn't listen. And I always start with, well, tell me about his hearing. Oh, he just has this, all this fluid. He has a bit of a moderate loss, but that's not his problem. His problem is he's not paying attention. You have to give what to pay attention to first. You have to get sound to the brain before we can encourage, help, teach the child to focus on the data that's there. You can't tell them to focus on what's not there. He's not listening. Well, you haven't given him what to listen to. Hearing must be made available before listening can occur, which means we have to know the hearing thing. In a classroom, if there's a lot of distractions, a lot of noise, and the complaint is, he just doesn't listen. Well, what are we giving him to listen to? Are we making obvious the signal that that prefrontal cortex must focus on? Are we making that very clear to the child? Or are we expecting this 6-year-old to look around, do a spatial scene analysis, and determine the most relevant events of all of this information streaming by that they ought to attend to? Really? We have to make hearing available to the brain before listening can occur. And it is absolutely true that unless that child's prefrontal cortex is focused on the auditory event, there will be no abiding neurological changes. Without attention, neural development does not occur. If the child is not attending, there will not be neural networks forming, because there's no magic. Now, attention can look all sorts of ways. It can look like eye contact. It can look like joint focus on a task. So attention looks different. But the point is, if that child, or anyone for that matter, isn't attending with the activation of their prefrontal cortex, there will not be abiding changes elsewhere in their brain. So you have this classroom of children. We want to get hearing that is clear sound to their brain, and we want to activate their prefrontal cortex so that we can have neural growth in their brain. We have to make sure the desired auditory signal is very clear, relevant, and obvious, so we make the decision about what to attend to.